Hey everyone, Road Breach here, and tonight I just want to make this video in defense of Mr. Enter. Mr. Enter is a cartoon reviewer, and if you don't know who he is, then you really should, because he's actually a very smart individual, and he's actually pretty enjoyable to watch. He does have a couple of live-action reviews, but he's mostly just animated-centric. He mostly just reviews animated properties. With that said, he's recently posted his review on the movie Turning Red, which has the internet split down the middle. Some say that it's really good and it handles puberty pretty well, and some people like Mr. Enter say that there have been better things that represent puberty a long time ago, like one episode of Braceface, which is a cartoon that I have not watched. Point of contention is this clip right here.
This film takes place less than a year after the September 11th terrorist attacks. I bring this up because it radically altered the culture of the time, in ways that make this movie feel exceptionally ignorant of the time. Even though, literally, the only reason I can comprehend that this movie is set explicitly in 2002 is because the director grew up in that exact year. Yes, this film takes place in Canada, not the United States, but all over the Western world. Canada, America, the UK, much of Europe. People were paranoid because 9/11 wasn't the only terror attack that had happened. It was the major theme of the decade. I mean, I can understand not wanting everyone to be so fearful, as that goes against the tone that the movie is trying to establish. But then you have very awkward moments if you actually were there and you do actually remember the time period.
Now, John usually is usually seen as the guy who takes cartoons way too seriously. And I do think that sometimes, but this is one moment where he's actually got a point. The movie Turning Red was obviously made for the TikTok indulging audience, but it takes place in a time when things were very, very different. And I mean very different. I wasn't around in 2001. Like I've said, I was born in 2002, and even then I do not remember a damn thing when I was born. He makes the point that the early, and I mean the really early 2000s, were not like how the movie portrays. And that's something that he's made very, very clear here. But leave it to people on Twitter to take his words out of context and completely miss the point of this clip. And they also comment on his anti-mask rant, which I'm not going to completely get into, but I will say that the points he makes against masks are honestly something that I do appreciate. Some people do have sensory overload, and that's what masks can do to a person. And people don't seem to really care about people who get sensory overload from things like masks. But let's get away from that before this video gets body slammed by everybody who wishes to take me out of context. By and large, his main point was that there was not a good purpose of setting it in 2001. I understand that there's the whole writing trope of you write what you know, but in this case, Mr. Enter has a very good point. It infuriates me when people remove context and try to move the goalposts or whatever shitty tactics that people use to make it seem like the person you're arguing against has no point. And what pisses me off even more is that there are even more deranged people out there that could quite possibly dox Mr. Enter once again, because, and side note, it does not matter if you're not going to post the dox. It's still a bad thing, and it's still against the fucking law if you're going to dox anybody. I'm looking at you, Easy Peasy, you piece of shit. Now, I understand if you want to push some sort of message with the piece of media that you're making. And if you're pushing a good, heartfelt message like what Turning Red wants to do, then that's pretty admirable. But if you try to make it seem like a political movement or something bigger than it actually is, then honestly, you're pretty ripe for criticism on that front. And I think Disney is especially bad in those areas, like with Beauty and the Beast with Lei Fu, or the off in the background same-sex kiss in Star Wars, whatever it may be. And I know that we're not on the topic of opinions anymore, but I'm just going to bring this up. There was somebody who was trying to get under my skin by saying that Cars was a terrible movie. And I'm just going to say this. While I do like Cars, it's not really something that's really close to me. I know that I designed my character. I know that I designed my avatar after Lightning McQueen. Some say that he kind of looks like Mac, but but they do know that it's a character from Cars. That's what he looks like. Cars, I like Cars, but it's not. But the fact that somebody's trying to get under my skin and say that Cars is a bad movie is not something that I'm going to hunt you down for. If you don't like Cars, then that's fine. But if you're trying to get under my skin, then I don't care. And it's also pretty funny that these people will go after Mr. Enter because they don't like him, only to make him trending and make him famous, give him more clout. That is what these people do. They try to publicize their hate, and they only make him more noteworthy in the public sphere. And John, if by any chance you happen to catch this video, then I understand how you feel. I'm sorry that you're going through this, and I understand how you feel. I may not agree with some of the things you say, but ultimately, I do think that you are a good man, John. I only wish the best for you. And to all who clicked on this video, thank you for watching, and God a Zoom.